Oh, hi. Well, let's see. Okay, welcome everybody. And Pietrick can't make it today, so you get me. But welcome to the September meeting for the Eugene Airport Advisory Committee. And at this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to Catherine for an introduction of guests.
Okay, thank you so much, Mark. And so we have with us as guests, go through the list here, Shad Turner, Robert Hunsinger, Scott Real. Did I already say Shad Turner? They're starting to scramble as I read them. And then Cedric is on the phone along with Randy Riccici. And the rest is airport staff, which you will be hearing from some of them today. But we've got Odette Opie logging in, Randy Bonneau, Andrew Martz, Dan Durazo, Patricia Haley, Tammy Harchie, Travis Hargett, Chuck Mueller. I think I got everybody. There we go. All right, would you like me just to launch right into the director's report?
Yeah, let's do that. It's on the director's report and take it away from there.
Okay, very good. Nice to see everybody today. I'm going to share my screen, hopefully successfully the first time. Do you see the PowerPoint? Okay, perfect. Very good. Okay, so we've got a few things on the agenda today. We are going to be doing our usual review of our activity report and financial report, give you a couple of updates around our recovery, both passenger wise, and then talk about some projects. And then we're going to hear from a couple of staff members today. We'll hear from Chuck Mueller, who's our facilities maintenance manager, about the work he does with his work group. And then we'll hear from Tammy Harchie, our security and emergency manager, about the work that she does. We're stacking them up, a couple of them today because we've missed some, and we'd like to make sure you hear from our management team once a year about the work that they do, because they do awesome work. So we'll launch right into the activity report and go from there. Andrew, you want to take it away?
Absolutely. So we had another busy month, not quite a record like June and July were, but pretty darn close. So 40% up from last year, and then 9% up from 2019. 73% up on air carrier landings, one less than 2019. So super close, but trending well. Plus or minus one margin of error is what I'm going to say. So in plane passengers, whopping 173% up over last year, and just 1% down for 2019. So really negligible difference. Same thing on total passengers. Then you can see the numbers for our operations, air carrier landings. We're really, we're lucky that we've bounced back into those kind of normal numbers. Not every airport out there is seeing recovery like this. So kind of as we've seen throughout the pandemic, Eugene Airport has really fared better than most. Still not painful when we were kind of talking this time last year, but thankful to be kind of where we're at comparison to where maybe some others are. Any questions on that? Oh, we got more. So our load factors, the all important load factors, we're back into those 80s, right? So 84%, that's a fantastic load number. That makes airlines very happy. So 4.4 percentage points up from 2019. So that's really strong. I mean, to have those kind of numbers is really strong. Then our market shares, you can see we've kind of seeing some evening out. Alaska took the high there for a little while. United starting to regain some of that. Southwest, that number is totally misleading. That's only 2 flights. They start at the end of this month, so it'll be really interesting to see where that lands. Moving down the line. Cargo, air cargo is down. Really attribute that, I think, mostly to Alaska moving their cargo operations into the terminal. So I think that's put a little bit of shift on how the local cargo market. Plus, You know, a lot of our cargo, as many of you know, is food, it's perishable food items, mushrooms being the big one. So with the big hit on hospitality and restaurants nationwide, I think that overall they're seeing some of that drop in local demand for cargo services.
All right, thanks, Andrew. Any questions on the August activity report? And I can't see everybody, so you're going to need to speak up if you have that question.
I have a question. I'm wondering about, I think somebody mentioned in one of the recent meetings, the change of aircraft for some of the airlines. Has that happened? So are some of the airlines running larger airplanes now? And wouldn't that affect load factor at some point if they went to larger aircraft but carried the same number of people?
Yes, it certainly could impact our load factor. And so we have seen some up gauges in aircraft type, and we've held with that load factor. And I have some slides coming up that will illustrate that a little bit more. So the great thing is, even with larger aircraft size, first of all, the airlines are doing a good job of right sizing our market. And we're also making sure to keep up as far as our passenger numbers. So we haven't really seen, we've seen faster recovery, and we've seen more, I guess, just more solid recovery. And we're not seeing a lot of ups and downs. And that may change in the fall. And like I said, I've got some slides coming up that may take a look at that a little bit further.
Thanks.
Any other questions on that?
Any change in the Chicago route?
Well, you know, Chicago is one of those things. United's hanging on to it. They continue to put it in the forward-looking schedule, and then they continue to change it to a one-stop. So people are booking it thinking it's a nonstop, and then United will change it to be a hop through Denver or something like that. So it's not going over very well. We really don't have any control over that. You know, United tells us they want to bring back that nonstop at some point, but they just have not been able to do it at this point. All right, unless there's anything else, we'll move on to the financial report. And Patricia.
Ooh, eye test.
Yes. Patricia, you're on mute.
I think we've got the wrong one in there, so I'm going to improvise here and share my screen. Can you see my screen now?
No, not yet.
So can you unshare yours, Catherine? I don't know if we can pull this off. Okay. All right, are you seeing it now?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, and it says August right here.
Yeah.
Okay, August looks good. We're just 9% under our budget, and we're 90% of last year, or over last year. So you can see last year we only had 824,000 in revenue, and now we've got 1.5 million. Personnel is down 25%, and we're 1% below last year. Materials and supplies are under budget by 44%, 3% above last year's. There's been no capital expenditures. Central services is usually done 1/12, but they're lagging behind. They've hit a problem with staffing issues, and so they're behind by a month. Total operating is under 35%, 4% above last year. So overall, we are just at a negative 6,000, which is great compared to last year. And when you put in our CARES draw, we're at a net positive operating of 527,000. So really seeing a turnaround on this. I'm just going to go ahead and share my charts because I think the charts are probably off also. So this is pretty exciting. The orange here, you can see the recovery from last year. The gray is last year, and then this is this year. So you can see us coming up substantially in August on the revenue, and you'll see it come even further next month as we've got a bit of a lag in the revenue. So even September, you should see even more here. Our expense, we're just kind of going right along with what we budgeted and what we usually do. We're a little under. We're still kind of watching our expenditures. The cumulative net gain, as you can see, last year we just nose dove down. Here we are this year, we're holding our own. And like I said, there's a lag in the revenue, so I expect this to start coming up. I think in September, October, you'll see it come up a bit. This is with the CARES Act. You can see last year we were going along, we were really sucking. Then we got our CARES Act draws started, and we started up and we ended really well. And we're just keeping ourselves level this year with the CARES draws. So overall, we're looking really good. Our recovery's strong, revenue's looking good, expenses are they're under control. Now let's see if I can get back and unshare my screen. Does anybody have any questions?
Not seeing questions. I think that worked pretty well, Patricia. Actually, we may have you just share your screen in the future because it's a little easier to read and you can walk us through it.
It's actually easier to do
Easier to
too.
do it, yeah. Okay. We
Right now, I can't get back to my big screen,
You should just be able to unshare it.
but I need to get to my large screen to unshare, and I can't get there. I'm just gonna start clicking buttons here.
If you're in full screen mode, hit escape and you'll be able to see it.
I think I can take it over.
That would be great. I seem to be, oh, there, my screen came back. I needed you to help me, I guess.
And then I think I have to swap it. Are y'all seeing the full screen now? Okay, there we go.
So I just want to mention, I will send out my financials and graphs in an email to everybody so everybody's got them handy.
Did anybody have any questions about the financials? Scrolling through. Okay, I think we're good. All right, so I wanted to show you a few other things about kind of where we're at. So in our forward-looking schedules, I think I went ahead. There we go. In our forward-looking schedules, of course, we've had a record June, we had a record July, we missed a record August by about a little over 400 passengers. And so looking at September, we are up 14% in departures, and then we're 19% up in seat capacity compared to 2019. So not too shabby. If we look out further, which is kind of our farthest reaching schedule that we can tell from the airline schedules, we can see that our departures will be 19% up in January of 22, and our seat capacity will be up 26%. So this is great. It's always subject to change as it's a little further out, but we have another new airline with another new nonstop route that's starting in October. So that may keep these numbers pretty solid as we move forward. It's a smaller carrier. It's less than daily service, but it's still an additional carrier that will be joining the mix at EUG. So when we look at, we usually compare ourselves to 20 airports of similar size. It's our 10 up, 10 down comparison. And so in May, and the data lags a little bit, so that's why we're using May data, it shows that Eugene recovered the fastest and the most completely, with passenger numbers only 7% below 2019 numbers in May. and with an 80% load factor in 2021 compared to an 81% load factor in 2019. So that's really what's significant about looking at this table. It indicates a stronger recovery than the other 2 airports in the state of Oregon, and they were actually the 2 of the full 20 airports. The Oregon airports recovered stronger than the other airports that we compare to. But most importantly, our recovery was more complete because our load factor also recovered. And so if you take a look at the load factors being shown by Medford at 79% and Redmond at 74%, those load factors are not as strong. So even though they had passenger numbers come back pretty robustly, it's that load factor that the airlines really look at. So that's, I think, one reason why we've been coming out ahead on this whole situation. So then I always listen to my aviation industry pundit, Bill Swellbar. He's a super smart guy, has been in the industry for a long time, and he puts out a report a couple of times a month that I really pay close attention to. So as he notes, small airports are recovering faster than medium and large hub airports, and that's definitely true at Eugene. Of those who have grown the fastest, airports serving markets with a leisure orientation have recovered the fastest. So with summer coming to a close, the question really is, how, will these smaller markets now see a drop in passengers in the fall, the ones that have been most dependent on leisure travel? So the jury is really out on that. And if you had a crystal ball and could look forward, I take a look at a couple of other things. So a Bloomberg survey that came out a couple of weeks ago, they surveyed 45 large businesses in the US, Europe, and Asia, and it shows that 84% plan to spend less on travel after the pandemic. Exactly when that post-pandemic period will be, I don't know, because I think we're still in it. The survey showed that a majority of the respondents cutting travel budgets will see reductions of between 20 and 40%. And that's about 2 out of 3 of these companies slashing both internal and external in-person meetings. So that's really something to keep an eye on. I just read a different report today from the CEO of United Airlines, and he's believing that business travel will be coming back, and it actually will be coming back this fall. So the bottom line is nobody actually knows, but we're going to keep watching it. So continuing on with our crystal ball, the airlines have been saying that the rise in COVID-19 cases has been hurting their sales in key segments. So business and international travel are still really largely missing. Delta's CEO predicts that the rise in cases won't derail the travel recovery, but it will delay it by 90 to 120 days. So if you think about that, it pushes us all the way into fall and into winter. So meantime, Southwest Airlines is reporting that leisure travel has indeed weakened with more cancellations and softer bookings into September and October, but they're saying that the booking pattern for the winter holidays looks normal. So that's encouraging. So take that all for what it's worth. We're going to continue to monitor it really quickly. And we've been, conservative all along in our budgeting and planning. So we're just going to stick with that. And, when we see opportunities, we'll take them. And otherwise, we're going to just stick with being really conservative. Any questions around that? And I'm scrolling through here, but if you've got a question, just go ahead and unmute yourself. Okay, and we will go on to a brief construction update. So this is a picture of the secondary runway rehabilitation. It's moving on time. It's coming together really well. We have, so that is planned to run through the end of October. I know we're waiting on some signage right now. They're out there grooving the pavement this week, and then they'll be doing the striping. So that's, like I said, that project, Knockwood, has moved along remarkably smoothly. The plans for the 5th check bag screening machine are going to be submitted to the TSA next week for review and approval. And hopefully with installation slated for before the Christmas and New Year's holidays. We don't think we're going to be able to hit the Thanksgiving holiday unless somehow the TSA miraculously speeds up their timeline of approvals, but you never know. We'll see. I know Southwest is very eager to get that machine online. And then there have been a couple of additional grant funding opportunities that have come up. So the Oregon Department of Aviation is offering their core grant programs again. We actually did receive core grants for the past 2 fiscal years that served as our federal match for each of our construction projects. But then those projects were converted to 100% federal share. And so we were able to turn that grant funding back to the ODA. This year, we'll be applying for a grant again, but we don't have a match that we need to come up with. So we've needed to come up with another project. So we have been eyeing for a long time bringing a redundant high-speed fiber line into the airport so that we're not reliant on just one high-speed fiber line that runs a lot of stuff, including the air traffic control tower. So we are going to be applying for that. We sweat a little bit just because it has a larger match on it. That one has a 50% match, if I remember right. And then the other opportunity that's coming up is Connect Oregon. Connect Oregon, we were told we would not see aviation included in Connect Oregon. And then miraculously this year they included it. So, and they actually took out some of the other modes of transportation. So we think that we'll be pretty competitive in that grant process this year. Its intent is to increase multimodal transportation. So we've identified a project down at the air cargo area. We need to expand the Lima and hotel taxiway connectors onto the air cargo apron so that we can accommodate larger aircraft. So with the intent of accommodating larger cargo aircraft, but actually will allow us to accommodate larger like charter aircraft and some military aircraft as well. So we're hopeful that we will have a high priority on that project, and that one comes with a 30% match. So it's not small potatoes either, but we feel like we really need to go for all of the grant funding that we're able to go after. And then our advanced terminal study launches next week with our initial meeting with our planners from RSNH. We did have kind of a pre-meeting with them to put together the framework of our sustainability focus, but they will be on site next week and we will have our initial meetings, which very similar to an airport master planning process. So they'll be looking at existing conditions and then what staff identifies as our needs. And then we'll go from there. Moving into fall, we'll have meetings with the technical advisory committee and the community advisory committees as well. Any questions about construction updates or grant funding? We're of course still really looking for the additional infrastructure package to move its way through Congress. And also FAA reauthorization, which can also potentially provide some additional funding for us. Okay, if there's no questions at this point, I'm just scrolling through to make sure I'm not missing anybody. We will move on to our next presentation, which will be by Chuck Mueller, our facilities manager. And Chuck, if you want to bring yourself on camera and unmute, you can take it away.
Thank you. Can everybody see the slideshow?
Yes.
Okay.
And I will, I'll forward your slides if you just say next slide.
Okay. The airport terminal, 120,000 square foot, 2-level terminal, where we serve, it's the part of the airport where we serve the commercial base and is kind of the backbone of our operation. Next. I'm Chuck Mueller. I'm the facilities manager here. I've got a background in civil engineering, project management, water utilities, school facilities. Worked in the petrochemical industry, and I am a former Marine. So I bring all that experience with me here to this job. And these are my my crew. I have 14 staff that work 24/7 that make sure that everything in our facilities are I think you're okay to stay on that, Catherine. They work 24/7 to make sure that the facilities are clean, disinfected, in shape, working the way everything's supposed to. They're a really great crew. I'm proud of them. I'm proud of the work that they do. Next slide. So in addition to the terminal, the other, we're responsible for all the other airport owned buildings in and around the campus of the airport. So that includes the air cargo building, the ARF building, admin, maintenance buildings. And we're responsible for any of the facilities work and for the most part, most of the custodial in those buildings as well. Next slide. So roles and responsibilities for my team and myself are, again, the custodial and the facilities maintenance portions of that. But we're also tasked with security under the TSA Part 1542 for inside the terminal. And we also have operations qualified staff that serve as operations duty officers nightly. So with that, I talked about the flexibility of my staff, and they can go from taking out trash or cleaning a toilet to having to go promptly check a door alarm, move from checking a door alarm to going to clear up a bag belt jam, and then along the way, respond to customer service inquiries and stuff. So that was what I was talking about when I said they were, that I feel they're very flexible in what they do, and they have to have a lot of skills and talents to be able to do all the things that they accomplish. Some of the challenges and opportunities that we've had over the last few, so I've been with the airport just over 2 years now, and some of the challenges and opportunities that we've had are, obviously COVID, going through, we got the terminal GBAC certified, and went through and did a lot of protocols to make sure that everybody who could come to the airport terminal and either needed or wanted to fly out was doing so in as safe a space as we can make it. We also last year dealt with the wildfires, and I think that we came through that pretty well. We were pretty resourceful on some of the things that we did in order to make sure that the air quality was staying good inside and not affecting not just the passengers, but also all of us that have to work inside here. And the mask mandates, going through and tasked with enforcement of making sure people are wearing their masks inside the terminal. I touched on the GBAC accreditation. That's a national accreditation, and we're I think when we applied, we were in the top 10 airports to be able to get that accreditation. We're currently undergoing reaccreditation with that process. Last year, when the passenger numbers dropped off, it afforded us the opportunity just to really kind of take a step back and look at the things we're doing and really get involved in a lot of the processes. With GBAC, it didn't change the way that we were doing things. It just reinforced that the things that we were doing were working, and then we incorporated documentation and making sure that we were keeping keeping good records of what we're doing. One of the tenets of the GBAC is if it's not documented, it didn't get done. So we're making sure that we go through and document all that, all the different protocols, cleaning, sanitization that we're doing, and keeping the terminal clean and safe 24/7. We went through, we did a lot of deep cleaning. We took a deep dive into our processes, how we do things, the supply chain, what chemicals we use, where did we get things from. One of the things that we kind of learned was we needed a little bit more resiliency around some of that stuff. And so we've built that into how we operate now. Having more suppliers and vendors be able to work with us instead of being reliant on one or two and being reliant on proprietary type systems. We also went through and did we had a chance to work on a lot of stuff, fix a lot of stuff that had been kind of hanging out for a while, and go through and really look at the HVAC system and start working on some upgrades for that. Next slide. In addition to all that, aging facilities, I kind of like this because it's so the Hoover Dam, and when it was built, and just the kind of daily upkeep that's needed to take it and hold back all the floodwaters. And I was going to make a bad pun about it being a lot of dam work running the terminal, but it was too obvious. So coming in, we had to go through and I assessed the condition and of everything in the terminal, and we started working out plans for revitalizing the equipment, especially the HVAC system. Looking at getting our passenger boarding bridges up to date and safe, and making sure we had plans in place for like baggage handling systems. A lot of the work that went into that, we were rewarded with a reduction in energy usage, and also being able to move from being reactive to problems and incidences and maintenance to being proactive with it, taking care of the preventive maintenance, making sure that we weren't getting surprised all the time by things breaking. And just the going through and taking that kind of ownership over what we're doing and showing how much we cared. We started to see more ownership from the other parties involved, from the other vendors and airlines and TSA. So that was good. Plans for the future, we've got like to do LED light upgrades throughout the terminal. Again, this gives us better light, better quality light, more energy efficient lighting. And it's one of those projects that the return on the investment comes around really quickly. It'll give us a lot of savings on power, and so we're going to be working towards that. Also, HVAC is just always an issue within here, and always just kind of working on it to try to make it better. Carpet replacement is going to be a big one. The carpet in the terminal now is getting a little worn, tattered, and it's hard to keep up. My crew does a great job in going through cleaning carpets, but we're looking at options to be able to replace that and maybe do a combination of hard versus soft. Also looking at doing asset management. We've got some software for asset management, maintenance management, being able to go in, look at our assets and our what we have and our maintenance logs, and being able to do life cycle costs on all that stuff to be able to have a better idea of where we're spending our money, and it doesn't make sense to change things out, and also training of staff on keeping them up to date with everything. Good. Next. Moving into some of the other things that we're doing here is last year we put in lactation rooms for nursing mothers who travel. They've been a big hit. We get fairly consistent usage out of those now, and I think that they're really appreciated. COVID between the sneeze guards and masks, it made hearing really difficult for everybody, but especially if you had hearing difficulties. So we put in, we got a grant and we're able to put in hearing loops at all the face-to-face point-to-point counters, so that if you have a hearing aid or a cochlear implant, you would be able to hear the voice inducted into your hearing aid to be able to hear better, and that was received very well throughout the community. Moving forward, so a picture on the right there is from 1987, and the concept of the new concourses over there. Yeah, just want to continue to move forward with in a smart way, looking at the experiences that we've learned and being able to incorporate those into the new building.
All right, thank you so much, Chuck. Any questions?
Before, but my question surrounding the CARES Act and seeing as how we're on the path towards viability, I say we, but I mean you, that we recognize that, I didn't know if there were limitations or if it was owed back at some point, or, what uses for some of the funds. And Patricia did answer the question that some of the funds are now being redirected into other areas, which is fine. But that was my overarching concern, is that I'm sure that you have to provide that data to the federal government in order to get the funds released. And if they see that we're on the path towards profitability, is that ending? Do we owe something back? It was just along those lines.
Okay, so I can answer that. The CARES Act and all the other ones are not revenue replacement. So in no manner do they ever look at our revenue and say, you're making too much revenue. In fact, I've had that specific conversation with our ADO saying, we have revenue now in this CARES Act. And he's like, it doesn't matter. It's given to you for your operations and maintenance. So use it. So your question actually, I thought, was a really good segue into sharing the whole plan with the group. So as you can see on the screen, we've got our relief grants here. We have our CARES Act, which we got back in 20. We've got CRISA for the airport, and we've got CRISA for concessionaires. We also will be getting in October and November ARPA for the airport and ARPA for concessionaires. So we've been spending down our CARES Act funds. In fiscal year 20, we spent a little over 5 million. In 21, between 7.5 and 8 million. I think this is a really close estimate, but I will get that nailed down because I think we've closed our GL now for that year. And then we decided that we would cut off the use of CARES at the end of fiscal year 21, make a clean break, and start using CRISA for our operations and maintenance in 22 for a couple of months. And then we'll switch to using ARPA when it comes in, and then it will cover us about 12 months from October, I believe. We'll get to the end of next year before we'll be done with them all. So then we've redirected, we're going to put in an amendment to the CARES Act grant and take the 10 million that's left and increase our heavy pad capacity, because right now they're all being used. And with our new airlines, we need to provide more. So 10 million will go towards that. We are in the process of enclosing the mezzanine room so that we can use that for our large meetings and still do the social distancing and everything, because as you all know, our meeting room is extremely small and the mezzanine one is extremely loud right now. So we're putting up that glass wall, making that a viable meeting room. And then also, this is exciting, PCA units for the jet bridges, so that the planes can pull up and hook up to a PCA unit and circulate air within nice filtered air within each of the airlines while they're sitting there. And they don't have to run their engines. And so it's really going to help with our greenhouse gases as well. Then for CRISA, we got 127,681 to give to our concessionaires. We've submitted that plan to the website to have it approved. We have not received anything back. We've pinged them several times and we'll ping them again because we really need to be able to release that. And then the 4.5 million here in 22 will go from ARPA into O&M. And then we've got our ARPA concessionaires, which will come October, November, and we've already got our plan in for that too. We've also submitted that, hoping to get that approved so that when the grant comes, we can provide it to our concessionaires. So this is a really good overview of the next few years, the last 2 years and the next 2 years of how we plan on using each one of these grants. I'll send this out along with my other slides that I'm sending. Any questions? Hey, I made 1 o'clock.
Thank you so much for that, Patricia. And really, you know, there may be some small tweaks, but we have worked for weeks and weeks to nail this down, along with kind of our longer term financial look. And so a lot of this plays into our advanced terminal area study and then all of those enabling projects leading up to a C concourse build. So we've been crunching a lot of numbers.
Yes, we have.
All right, well, we're running up against our time. And so if anybody's got questions for Patricia on that, otherwise I will turn it back to Mark for the open discussion questions and comments.
I think you have to take the screen back. I can't give it to you for some reason.
I think I have to share it and then I have to unshare it. There we go. All right. All right, Mark, I'm tossed back to you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, special thanks to both Chuck and Tammy for their presentations. That was really good. Appreciate that. And other than that, if you guys, any of you have the opportunity to read the piece that Catherine wrote for the Airport Magazine on the advanced airport mobility, that was a great piece, Catherine.
Thank you.
And,
Yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff.
Anybody have any questions or anything before we go into adjournment? Okay, well, hopefully soon we'll be face to face again, but other than that, this meeting's adjourned.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Great to see you all.
Bye.